Alright, fellas, so on my most recent video, you guys said that you would like to see more stuff about draft and kind of like what the thought process is with that and kind of a general, like, just going deeper into comp. I think in order for me to do that and to show more specific things, it'd be a good idea to do the basics first, so that's what we're going to start with today. We're just going to go through the basics of drafting. I have a couple points to hit on, and at some point we'll ramble through them. So let's just say this is like, this is an example of first pick side, and then let's just do an example of second pick side over here. Nope, I didn't want to do that. Haha, this is going to be painful to watch me Google Doc. I'm sorry about that, but nothing else we can do about it. So this one is me, and then this one is them, and then this one is them, and then this one is me. Okay. So the first thing to kind of understand about drafting in general is like kind of what meta you're in, because different metas will have different challenges. So the technical definition of meta is like most effective tactic available. I think that's the origin of it. And the whole idea is just what is the strongest way to play the game right now. And that is normally dictated by the game itself and balance rather than the players. Both of those influence each other to some extent, but let's say we are, like, let's use a healing meta because that's probably the most distinct, where it's so different from any other meta. So if we're in a healing meta, what could be different about a healing meta? Well, maybe healing items got buffed. Maybe anti-heal could have gotten nerfed. Maybe, like, Ankh, for example, as a relic, got nerfed. Maybe there are, like, out-of-combat healing changes. Maybe there's a new healer got released and is good. Maybe, like, prominent anti-heal characters, so prominent anti-heal characters, let's say, i.e., like Odin, Serket, got nerfed. Any of these can really trigger a healing meta, and the idea is that if healing is strong enough where you can basically draft through it and win the game, that in itself is going to dictate a draft. So I'll just do a really quick example. Like, let's say Hel, Aphrodite, and Yemoja are all broken healers, and healing is a so OP that you want it no matter what. Like, maybe you still would go for, like, Ra or Sylvanas or something like that. Like, you really can't ban it out. We're going to use Smite 1 examples, by the way, just because it'll be more depth. Using Smite 1 examples because more gods plus more historical context. Okay. So, yeah, it could be anything. Basically, the idea is that... sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, any of these could trigger a healing meta, and there could be any which reason why that would be good. Sometimes you'll also see, like, a double hunter meta will be very good, and this could be a ton of reasons. This could be pressure. Generally speaking, hunters outpressure mages in mid. So let's say neutral objectives around mid are really valuable. Think Scorpion meta, for example. Scorpions in Season 9. Let's say ADC items are just really good. And maybe there's ability-based ADCs that are good. So let's think like Chiron mid, AMC mid. Maybe Prot Shred is really easy to get. Again, let's think like Executioner. Let's think like AMC alt buff in Season 8, Season 9. Stuff like that. Maybe magical solos are just really OP. You can think of like Mage meta Season 10. You can think of like Cthulhu Artio meta in Season 8. These are some examples of like, if these sort of things happen, then you might be seeing double hunters. Maybe supports that work well with it. Let's say Fafnir, as an example, got buffed and is really strong. So any of these could happen. Any of these could trigger these sort of things. When you play for long enough, you'll kind of notice patterns with these things. Like, let's say only one of these happens. So let's say only Fafnir gets buffed. If the game is somewhat stale and you feel like people aren't innovating, something that you might do is just spend a couple scrims and just try it, see how it feels, see if it changes the way the game flows. Because independent of these like character metas, so these are like characters and items, you also have map meta. So map will be, man, I could go through forever with this. A lot of times you'll have conversations of like what side of the map is more valuable. So think like fire imps in season 3, season 4 were really OP. Think scorpions in season 9. Think like Totem of Ku release plus invade meta on speed in season 6. Normally there's like a clear side of the map that people kind of value. In fact, the Totem of Ku meta, Totem of Ku was added directly to combat people overplaying duo side. And the reason people would overplay duo side in season 5 was because that was the first year they put speed buff in the very, very back of the map, like basically where back harpies are normally. And the reason they did that was because it was really easy to invade the jungler's speed and, you know, this and that and blah, blah, blah. So what basically happened is on solo side, if you had control, you were really only controlling blue buff and back harpies. But if you were controlling duo side, you would be controlling red buff and purple buff, and there were also oracles on that side of the map where solo side didn't have any other neutral objective. So that tends to bleed into it, and it tends to hop around kind of season to season for the most part. Like same thing with the fire imps in season 3. They were really, really broken, and it actually led to, there was like a hog season 3 invade meta at Worlds, you guys might remember, where it was like a level 1 brawl every game. Oracles were introduced in season 4 directly to try to combat that, because there was no objective on the duo side. We had fire imps before fire giants spawned, but it was just gold fury on the duo side of the map. And then it kind of bounced back and forth, right? Like oracles are introduced in season 4, and then in season 5 they moved the speed buff back, and now we're playing duo side, and then Totem of Ku gets released, and now you're invading solo side. Like you just go back and forth. So the combination of all of these things can dictate a lot. I would say from a support perspective, this is normally the thing I care about the most. Normally, I care about the map meta above all else because that will dictate the type of characters that I'm going to play. So if I can get active on the duo side of the map, let's say hard playing duo is really valuable, you're going to see me play characters that have a lot of pressure in that lane. You're going to see a lot of like, a lot of brawlers. You might see like Ardios and Hercs. You might see, yeah, I mean, it really depends. You get to see a ton of characters that prioritize that sort of playstyle. So meta is the first thing. You kind of have to understand all of these things before we get into this. The other thing that can influence this is comfort. So I'll give a couple examples. So let's say in solo lane, let's say classic matchup in solo lane would be Bellona versus Osiris, okay? This matchup is generally considered to be a 50-50. The thing is, it might not always be a 50-50, right? Like, you might have one player. Let's say I'm playing with Nika, and Nika would play both, but let's say it's Nika versus Deathwalker, okay? Deathwalker probably doesn't care which one of these he's on. He's probably happy either way. It's two characters. These are probably his two best characters throughout most of his career. Nika probably slightly prefers Bellona. So if we're going into a set, even though the matchup is kind of a 50-50, something we might have to figure out is, well, if we're first pick side, right, and they leave both of these open, and there's Bellona and Osiris, they're going to be on the other side of this thinking, well, we're getting one of these no matter what, and we're happy. And let's say there's another OP god open, let's just use Yamoja for the sake of the argument here. They would be happy with this, and maybe we're not happy to first pick. Like, for example, maybe we could do something like this, where they would deny Nika, and now suddenly, like, you know, I don't know what they could really do. Maybe there's a character he really doesn't like playing Osiris against. Actually, here's a better example. Let's say it's like Baron or something like that. Now suddenly, if they get their priority on this solo lane matchup, and then they are also counterpicking me, and the counterpick against me on Yamoja is also good into Osiris in team fights, maybe we don't like this scenario. So even though this matchup is supposed to be a 50-50, and in theory we're getting the best first pick, which is normally Yemoja the past few years, maybe this doesn't actually feel that good. And if we were to flip this, they might not care, right? They might not care about this because Deathwalker might say, you know what, I'm happy to play Osiris and Doubloon. I'm perfectly comfortable on that character. So that sort of thing can influence it. You can also have comfort in the case of, like, let's say it's a double hunter meta. You might have people who don't like certain hunter mids. So, like, let's say AMC, for example. Even when AMC is really broken, a lot of mid laners don't actually like playing it that much, because if you were to first pick in AMC, right, there are so many things you can do to own this character, right? Like, even just on the frontline roles, I can go Ymir, I can go Odin, I can go Yemoja. You could go like, any tank jungler really could like mess it up. You could just go, Fenrir. You can go a lot of beads forcers, like a Cthulhu, for example. Can be really hard for an AMC to burst down and kill. Generally, kin size are what you want against Cthulhu, not an ability-based character like AMC. So, like, normally if AMC is really broken, you kind of have to first pick it, but not a lot of people are comfortable first picking it. Something that made the Oni Warriors the team with, like, Dardas, Neil, etc. They had a couple splits where they actually did quite well, despite them being on ping or whatever the case may be. And a lot of it is because they were just willing to first pick AMC. Dardas just didn't really care. It's something that you will hear myself and a lot of other pro players really respect a lot about him as a player, is that he doesn't really care if he gets counterpicked. He feels comfortable playing into it no matter what. Other examples of that may be like, you know, if there's a meta where Hebo is really good, Paul will just first pick it. You know, like, he doesn't really care. Once you get good at a character, you've kind of played against the counters so much. Like Season 7, for example, I felt the same way. Like, let's say I thought Herc was really good in Season 7. We literally had a playoff set. I'm actually going to I'm going to try to go find it right now. We had a playoff set against Space Station, which was like Raffer, Cherry, Dardas, that whole team. Let's see, Ghost Gaming versus Space Station, Smite, Season 7 playoffs. Boom. Let's find this. Semifinals. Bam. Found it already. I'm gonna do it just as we had a set where I'm pretty sure they had one of these games. I feel like they triple banned me, essentially. They double banned me first pick side, even though Yemoja is just OP. Everyone bans Yemoja. But essentially the idea was that no matter what side I was on, I didn't really care what they did. Like, I would have gladly first picked Herc. I would gladly first pick any of this. I'd first pick, like, RDO. It doesn't really matter. Maybe this isn't the set I was thinking of, but anyways, you get the point. Like, once you get comfortable enough with it, like, I'll go Herc. I don't care if you go, like, Poseidon, Serket, like, any characters that you think are good into me, I'm used to playing around it, you know? Like, you'll figure it out. So there's, like, this combination and this kind of, like, in some ways, this, like, ego matchup of meta and of comfort, where you might just call people's bluff. Like, you might just think you're better at characters than they are. Like, let's say Uller is really meta. We had this in Season 9, actually. We played against the Bolts. I wonder if it'll be on here. Let's see. Let's see if we have this. So this is our Season 9 draft spreadsheet against the Bolts. Let's see if Uller is anywhere in here. Oh, we just assumed they'd ban Uller every game. That makes sense. Okay, and they probably did. Because we felt like both Pandacat and Pagon were really good at Uller, and we didn't think either Ven or Bara were good at Uller. So we just go into that set knowing, like, hey, if you play it, we don't really care. We don't think you're good at it. And if you give it to us, we have two players who will gladly play it. We feel like they'll carry the game, and we'll pick it whenever and wherever we want, you know? So you kind of get that sort of dynamic going. This all leads into, I guess the next point would be side selection. So normally side selection in the regular season, let's say you play a double round robin, the first time you play each other, it'll be a coin flip. And let me get rid of this for some visual clarity. The second time you play each other, it'll be whoever lost the coin flip, if that makes sense. So let's say first time around, it's a 50-50, you don't know who will get what. And then the second time around, you go into it knowing who has side selection. For that reason, I would actually prefer to lose the coin flip. Because in my opinion, like, let's say we have, it's a double round robin. Let's say it's the first time you play each other, and now second time you play each other. On the first one, neither team knows. You have to prep both sides equally going into it. and then they're on the spot choosing at the studio what they want. Whereas on the second time, I know for weeks in advance that I have selection. And now what this lets me do is I can prep comps in scrims. I can specifically prep for a certain side going into that team. So like, let's say it's a healing meta, and let's say I'm against a team who's been first picking hell over and over and over. Well, how can I get that information? We can go to our good buddy Blues Ultra, who, and this is just one source. Normally you'll keep sources here too. Like for example, this is our scrim document from last year. You'll keep track of all of these picks and what's going on. But something that Blues does that is like insanely valuable is you can just go to any player here, and let's say we're in phase 1, and then let's go to there was a healing meta. Who played a lot of healers? Jake played a lot of healers, actually. So let's go to Jake. And this is on the Oni Warriors Jake. Let's just see how many games he's playing healers. Boom. Afro, 7 games. Hell, 5 games. Terra, 5 games. Horus, 3 games. So he has played, what is this? This is 20 God, or 20 games out of these 22. He's on a healer. Or 20 out of the 25 total. So maybe we're playing against this team, and now maybe we're going to set up a draft to like have a counter healing draft, for example. Something like that. Who knows? So yeah, I would just prefer to lose this coin flip. Losing the coin flip was normally better, in my opinion. The differences on each side, it really, really, really depends. Generally speaking, people prefer second pick side. And the reason people prefer second pick side is, I'll just get rid of this for now, is you have, this is normally a target ban. So here's the differences between the sides. I'll go all the way through it, okay? Normally the problem with second pick side, and whether people prefer it or not, is how many OP characters there are prefer second pick side. It normally depends on how many like broken gods are in the game. So let's say for the sake of this example, the only broken god in the game is Yamoja, okay? Let's say every other character teams feel like they have a good answer to, they feel like they can play into it pretty evenly. If the only broken character is Yamoja, and I'm on first pick side, I guess I'll leave this label, I'm in the boat where I'm going to have 2 drafts set up here. So now my first draft is going to be, they're going to give me Yamoja. And then let's just see what that looks like. And then we'll go all the way through this. We'll discuss like counters they may do. We'll say like, well, if they're going to give me Yamoja, we're getting triple target band here, right? So it'll be a target band, it'll be another target band. We're going to do the same thing over here. And then on this side, let's say everything is the same, but now they actually ban Yamoja. Now we'll go ahead and see, like, what does this draft look like, okay? Oh, I'm really going to get into the nitty-gritty here. Holy crap, my brain is activated. Guys, this is going to be a long one, okay? I'm going to walk you through it even more, okay? So not only do you have to figure out... Okay, I'll stick on second pick side. Let's figure this out first, okay? Let's say there's now, like, 3 characters that are OP. So instead of Yamoja, let's just say it's characters 1, 2, and 3. I don't know why I wrote it like this. That's going to trigger me, actually, so I'm going to fix it. Let's say characters 1, 2, and 3 are really broken. So let's make another draft. Let's come down here. Well, now, if they do a target ban here, I know one of these characters has to be open, right? Because if we don't ban them, they can't ban all 3 anymore. So now what you might want to do, if you're in second pick side, is if you're comfortable 2 for 1 in this, now you might do another target ban. So now all 3 of them are open and they only have 1 ban to go. So normally what you would do on the first pick side team is if they haven't banned any of these 3 through the first 2, you're going to pick one and you're going to ban it. That way you would deny the 2 for 1. So normally what you would do is if there's a counter matchup in here, you might ban that. Or if there's a character that you just don't want to play or whatever, you might ban that. So let's say we're going to ban 2. Well, now their option is you can ban 1 and we'll get 3. Or you can leave both open and we'll get the highest priority one and then we'll go from there, you know? So you might do something like that if there's 3 OP characters available. This really comes into comfort. There are teams that don't want to do this. There are teams that they don't want to risk this 2 for 1. They don't want to risk the control that you get here. And there's other teams that might say, I don't care at all. You can 2-for-1 this. We think this character is so broken that we do not care if you pick these other 2 gods. We don't think they're as good as you think they are, and we'll just let you do it. So anyways, I'll come back to all of this and we'll get in here. Let's go through the advantages on both sides. Generally speaking, if you were to do like a cookie cutter example, first pick side gets to open with a target ban. Second pick side would open with a meta ban. This is the idea. Then another target ban, and then maybe you're setting up for a lane. So let's say, for example, let's say the best ADCs are Anhur and Cupid. But let's say that you think Cupid, there's been metas like this where... Actually, let's use Rama Cupid. This literally happened in Season 7. There was an ADC meta where you would only play Rama Cupid. Well, if I ban Rama here, I'm taking away a late game ADC for them, and then maybe an ADC that they're comfortable playing into Cupid. So now if they don't want to first pick Cupid, if they want to first pick Yemoja, well, now I get Cupid. And now I think I'm good against their front line. Maybe now I have a hunter that heals. I have more early pressure in the lane. So maybe even though I didn't get the very best overall god, maybe I felt like I got the best ADC, and my ADC player is really good and I can play through that. You know, you can do things like that. So normally you're setting up a lane here, and then depending on this, they might answer it. So like, let's say it's Rama, I might ban Cupid here, and then force them to ban Yemoja, and now you're playing just a totally standard draft. So let's say this meta is Yemoja's OP, Cupid, Rama, best ADCs, okay? So now we do a target ban, they do a meta ban, we do another target ban, they ban Rama, they want Cupid, we ban the Cupid, they ban Yemoja, we go to square one, I first pick Hercules, I run it down. This would be a Season 7 draft that we would actually do in a real game, because from my perspective, I don't care what they pick. I will play this into literally anything. From their perspective, their support might not feel that way. Their support might not feel as comfortable, they might not have practiced as much as me, that type of thing, you go through that. The other benefit, or the differences, I guess, between first and second are this block right here. This block is really important because this block is kind of everything that dictates the advantage of second. Actually, I should probably move... This one should go there. Yeah. It's kind of these 4 picks. So having the last pick before the ban phase is really valuable. So again, let's go back to the healing meta example. If I pick Hell, and now I just get to ban, like, Odin Serket, I've got away with murder. You know what I mean? Like, this could be a surprise pick. We might not even be in a healing meta. Normally, what you would actually do for a healing meta, quote-unquote, is you would actually ban the healers from first pick side. Because you don't have control of it. It's either you're picking it right now, first pick, or you're banning it. These are your 2 options. So, it would be option 1... Hell, and then option 2. You kind of have to pick one of these. You have to commit to it. You either have to come into this game in a healing meta, and you have to ban this character right now so that they can't set this up, or you have to be willing to first pick it and then not care if they do these other 2 picks. I'm actually not going to copy paste that because I don't want the colors. Or you might ban counters here. So if you were going to first pick Hell, you might ban Odin, and then you're going to ban Serket. And now what's probably going to happen is that they're going to third ban Hell, and now we're into like a quote-unquote normal draft. So you might get stuff like that. That's kind of the easiest example of this third pick being really valuable. The target bans can also be really valuable in the sense that, let's say there's like a triangle of soul laners that are really good. Like, let's say Osiris, Bellona, and Kakalin or something are all really good. I have the option, if all 3 are open here, I can pick whichever one I want. Let's say I want Bellona, and now I can ban the other 2. Is something that you can do as well. You'll see that commonly be used for this third pick slot or for these bans. Actually, really, this slot is just as valuable because I could pick something totally random here. And now let's say that same scenario of Bell, Osiris, and Cuckoo are all open. I can just ban 2 of them, right? I could just ban 2. So let's say I ban Bellona. So the problem with this is I can ban Bellona, and now they will ban something. Wait, hold on. Let me see the snake. It goes here, 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 boom, 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 2, 2, 1. I'm pretty sure this ban is first. This ban should be first. Yeah. So I would ban Bologna. They should ban neither. And then they should make me choose if I want to ban, like, Osiris, for example. And if I want to ban Osiris here, you're kind of forced to ban Kakalin. Like, let's just say these 3 soul laners are so much better. If you don't ban this right here, I just get it right now for free. And there's really not much you can do about it. And that can be really valuable because you can also use this to bait people. So let's say you have a player who has a really specific god pool. Let's say you are... What's a really good example player of this? Let's say you have like a set mid player or something like that. If I can use those bans, these soul lane bans, to bait that ban out of you, and then I can just go like set here, and you can't use these bans to pick gods that are good into me, I might be really happy in that scenario. So there's a lot of mind games you can play. And then the very, very last thing that'll be obvious, I think, from second pick side is you get the final pick. The final pick is generally just a nice luxury to have because... yo, Seagull, thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. Yeah, the 10th pick slot is very just generally good because you can save it for whatever lane you want. It sometimes isn't even a lane. I will say this is a separate tangent to drafting. I fucking hate solo laners 10th picking every game. Solo laners and junglers 10th picking is like my biggest trigger ever because they do fucking nothing with it. Every time they do nothing with it in recent years, there used to be a time where last picking your soul laner was actually really good because there would be a lot of like kill potential in the lane. But specifically in the last few years of the SPL, when we're having like RDO Cthulhu metas, nobody's dying in that lane. You're just farming creeps. Like nothing should really be happening for the most part. You might as well just pick those characters earlier, set up your team comp, and then let your ADC last pick. Like let somebody else last pick who can do more with it. That's a separate tangent. Junglers also love it. Like one of my favorite thing is to see like a 10th pick Thor or something, or like a 10th pick what's like a really standard jungler, like a 10th pick Hunbot or something, you know, like you really catch them off guard with the standard AoE alt jungle pick. Like that's a very surprising one, you know. Anyways, that's a separate note, but yeah, hopefully you understand the differences between first and second pick. Let's keep going. Let's go to... I kind of talked about second phase bans. Oh, actually, I can segue into what roles are valuable in counterpick. That's something I wanted to talk about and how metas changed that. So let's go back to the double hunter meta here. One of the things I listed for a double hunter meta is that it could be triggered by Guardians being OP in solo. So if Guardians are really OP in solo, let's think of a list of like who might be the actual best Guardians in solo historically. You might have Cthulhu, you might have RDO, maybe you have random like Kabrakins and Sobex and stuff like that. Normally you won't see teams ban all of these, and the way the bans would work in the first phase is normally to disable a comp. So let's say Morrigan Cthulhu. This is like a classic combo people would want to do. If I'm on first pick, I can't pick that combo right away, right? Whereas if both of these characters are open, I could pick Cthulhu, but they could just go Morrigan, and now not only do they have a strong mid laner, I now have to consider like, hey, this guy can turn into Squidward, and my ADC needs to be able to kill this guy. I need to have a character that goes Kins, for example. That's normally what you would want into a Cthulhu, so you can actually shred his like 6,000 health pool. It changes my draft instantly. Well, I could flip it around, and now I could go Morrigan, but now if they go Cthulhu, I have a mage that's not really that good at killing this guy, right? Morrigan doesn't want to be hitting this. So you could run 2 total dive comps, right? Like Cthulhu normally indicates they'll be diving over here. Morrigan normally indicates that you want to be playing dive on this side as well. I could have my Morrigan turn into a hunter. Maybe that's an option in the late game. Maybe I just think Morrigan is good enough through the early and mid that I'm comfortable with whatever. Another option may just be that, hey, we're just going to ban one of them. Like, we're just going to ban Morrigan. And then if you want to give us first pick Cthulhu, we're happy doing this. And we're like more solid on this side. Because normally what you don't want to do is you don't want to pick something random, let's just say Rama, and then, didn't mean to do that. You don't want to pick something random like Rama and then give them both. because now it's just a really strong combo. So normally you'll ban to get rid of one of those. You might see, in metas like this, you'll normally see solo laners top 3, because if the whole thing that enables the double hunter, which is what we want to get to, if it's these Guardian solo laners, you don't want to let all of them get banned out, right? Like, you don't want to let them pick one, and then you still don't pick any, and now they ban Ardio, and now they ban Sobek, and like, let's say you're Kabrakan, you could go Kabrakan, but there's a lot of characters I can go to punish you for this, right? Like, I can go characters that punish you for not having the CC immune alt. I can go characters that have jumps, and maybe it's harder for you to dive. Like, let's say it's like a like an on her or something, can be harder for Kabrakan to dive onto, things like that. You normally just don't want to be in that spot. So normally in a double hunter meta, if the Guardian solo laner is really important, you're going to see solo lane picks somewhere in here. And you might see it there, or you might see it in this slot. And then you'll see the hunters get picked later. And the reason for that is, if you're going double hunter, the difference between like a Rama or a Jingwei or something like that, it's normally not that big. You're building the same items on the ADC, right? You normally just want a character that doesn't get owned by their frontline. And since they're going to show you their frontline early anyways, because you're picking these Guardian solos because that's the meta, then you can kind of counterpick your pick later. So that would be a good example of like picking ADC bottom 2 rather than doing it earlier. Another example would be, let's go back to the Rama Cupid meta. This is season 7 here. So if Rama Cupid are the best 2 ADCs by far, if both of them were open, I would just want Panda to pick Cupid. And the reason I would want him to pick Cupid is because you're winning the laning phase, and Cupid is more restrictive on frontline picks. So let's say it was like an Ardio solo meta. You really don't want to be Ardio into a Cupid. That is not a matchup that feels good for Ardio. Same thing if you were like, I mean, there's a ton of picks you could go through. You could go through like Susano, or maybe even like Erlang to some extent, like characters that just don't have CC immunity. There's other frontliners like maybe Kepri or Terra. Terra is a good one, actually. Like, you don't really want to be in this spot. You might have 2 really good picks, but now if I get to counterpick you everywhere, if I have a Cupid and then maybe I have like Ymir here, so we're playing walls and we have cripples, right? You don't have jumps to get away from the Ymir walls. You don't have CC immunity to get out of the Cupid ult. We're going to win pressure because we're Cupid Ymir as well. We're like 2 of the best fighting gods earlier. It would be a reason where I would want to pick this, because if you want to go Rama here, be my guest. Like, if you want to go Rama into the Ymir and I have pressure on you and I'm playing from ahead and we can force your beads and we can force your ult, if I have a good game, we're just going to win. You know, that's kind of how I would view something like this. So in this meta, if you're picking duo lane early here, something I would like to do is pick my mage later, because picking my mage later, I'm going to see their frontline fairly early on. I should see like counters to me, even if they don't pick like one of these. Let's say they only pick the Terra. Maybe they just go Terra Rama off the bat. I'm probably going to see a solo laner or a jungler here. Maybe they go like Merlin so they can get around my wall. But either way, I'm going to see something valuable for my mid laner. I'm either going to see the other diver that he's going to deal with, right? I'm going to see like jungle, support, solo. I'm going to see another one of them right here. Or I'm going to see his mid lane matchup. And either way, I basically give my mid laner counterpick just by letting him wait. So you might see like kind of that balance of, we pick duo lane early, maybe you'll see their mid laner get picked later. Or we pick solo lane early, you might see the hunters get picked later. A meta where support might pick later would be... I'm actually a big fan of this one, of support picking later. And the main reason I like support picking later, besides it being my role, is that I actually think support has a lot of control in a draft. So what I mean by that is, like, if you pick an ADC, most ADCs do the same thing, right? You tend to want to be playing front to back. You want to be able to kill their frontliner, and you want to be able to kill objectives, right? That's just the role of ADC in a nutshell. The thing that makes the ADC's game the easiest is normally their lane state. So if you can give the ADC pressure with your support pick, that's normally something that just puts them in a good spot by default. So let's say I'm playing with PandaCat. A normal thing that I would do, actually, is just early pick him the hunter that he likes the most. So again, let's say this is like the Cupid matchup. If he just thinks Cupid's the best hunter and that's what he wants to be, and that he's comfortable in every single 1v1 that he's going to do, my job here is to just counterpick their support, right? I'm looking for their support to pick earlier than me. And if their support picks earlier than me and I get to counter it, I'm now going to put my ADC in a good spot. And if my ADC is in a good spot and it's a player who I think can carry the game, which of course I think Panda Cat can, you know, that might be a scenario where it's good for me to pick later. So I might be going into prep in this and say, hey, if they give me Cupid, I'm only picking as early as their support goes. So if I see support here, then boom, I'm going to pick here. But if I don't see this until here, I'm picking bottom 2. What if they never show it? This is actually something funny enough. Genetics kind of was conditioned to do this against us. If you watch like early Genetics, like season 8, season 9 against our team, he would just like rip his character, like top pick a lot of the time. And then me and Max would just fucking counter pick him. And he got tired of it. So he would start saving for 10th pick on this side. He even did it at Worlds, actually. I think in Game 5, literally Worlds Game 5 of Season 10 Worlds, he 10th picked. And I knew he was going to 10th pick Ymir if I picked Atlas, and I just let him do it anyways. But it's like that kind of mind game where you get so used to playing against certain players that you just know what they're used to. So if their support saves it for here, you might do a bait pick. Like, and that would be the Atlas example at Worlds, actually, where I knew he was going to go Ymir. I was happy playing Atlas. And I'm basically just saying, hey, I think my ADC has better pressure than yours. I'm going to win this fight anyways. And then if you're Ymir walking up to a Prot Shred character late game, good luck. You know, that's basically what you're saying. It's a firm handshake. Whoever wins the early game wins the game. And that's literally what happened Game 5 at Worlds. So you get into these little scenarios like that. I think I talked about disguising comps a good bit. That would be like the healing meta thing, you know, where you're trying not to show something, right? You don't show a healer here. Maybe they think, oh, you're not going to pick it. And then maybe they pick something weak into it, and then you just go hell. This actually came up in the Athena meta, actually, last year. So when you're against Athena, or when you are Athena, so as a support, in my opinion, one of the hardest counters to Athena. So let's say, like, Athena's OP. I'm going to put that in quotations because, come on. Let's say Athena's OP. In my opinion, Hell is a really good counter. And the reason Hell is a really good counter is because she directly owns everything that Athena wants to do. Athena wants to taunt your front line, and then she wants to play the cooldown of the taunt. If you either want to taunt and one-shot somebody, but if you can't taunt and one-shot them, you want to taunt, poke, disengage, play for the next taunt. Well, if you have somebody who can cleanse the taunt, which Hell can, you can't really play through the front line. And even if you do get the taunt off, if you can't one-shot them, you now have sustain out of combat. And then Hell is also a really good pressure character, and Athena famously is not that good of an early game fighter. You don't have maybe the damage or the pressure that another god may have. So something that you might see if Athena is really good, like let's say I was playing against the Ferryman, okay? So I'm Dragons last year, this is the Ferryman. Let's say Athena is really OP, you know? You get Athena here. Something I would actually be concerned about is if Paul just like third picks Hell here. And what I would want to make sure is like, hey, if I'm picking Athena and we really want this character, these gods cannot be bad into Hell. Because if he calls our bluff, or if he has this prepared, if this is like a pocket pick he's comfortable on, which somebody like Paul or Shinto or somebody like that, they would be comfortable on it, you need to play around that. Even if you haven't seen it in a little while, you have to play around that. So what you would want to avoid is maybe a jungler that doesn't kill a Hell, which would be maybe like, geez, what's a good example? A lot of junglers do really well into Hell. I got to pull up the Smite gods, actually. Give me a second here. I really should know this off the top of my dome, but it's been a minute. Let's say it's like even a Kali maybe could be okay. Like, you might not want to be playing Kali here just because like you could get out pressured. So like a late game jungle could be a good option. Maybe another good option would be a jungler who is like Fenrir can kind of go both ways. Like Fenrir can kind of kill Hell, but you can also get owned by like Fenrir late game. You can't really bite anybody, right? Because there's a cleanse. Maybe like a Nemesis, for example, the Hell can like slow immune herself and like get away from you and kind of kite you out. Anyways, you kind of get the point. Or like a you know, maybe there's soul laners that don't really kill her. It doesn't really matter, you know. The idea is that you just can't have picks that are bad into it because you have to be willing to play around them surprise picking you or setting up for a draft. So, you know, on the other side, if I was the Ferryman, I'd be like, yeah, let them go Athena. If they If Hell looks good, we're happy with that. If Hell doesn't look good, maybe we can do something else into it. Another thing you could do if you want to stay on the Athena is you could just ignore her, kind of. So you could run a dive comp. Athena is really not good at peeling divers. She only has one CC ability. It's not like she's a Yamoja who gives a bunch of shielding and healing and can displace you a bunch, and can CC you a bunch. She's got one button. She's got a taunt, and maybe she has an ult that she can use. So what you might do into an Athena is you could run like a Chiron or a Rama or something, and maybe you could run like the Morrigan. I'm just not necessarily in order. I'm just writing characters, right? You could run the Morrigan. You could pick like Ravana or Camazotz that she doesn't really interact with. It's really hard to get a taunt off on these characters. And now suddenly, if these people just start running past me, I can't do shit. Like, I can't do anything about this. So that would be another example of something you might do to bait a draft or to set it up. I feel like I've gone through so much. I should probably chill for now. This probably went further past the basics, but hopefully you guys get the general idea of this, which is there's just a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I'll go more through like prep and everything, but you know, if I was going through, like, I'll show you guys, this is my document for playoffs. So we played the Ravens first. I'm literally like color coding like picks. I'm talking about like where I want to pick stuff, what I think will be banned, what I think will be top 3, what's a niche pick, what's completely uncontested for either team, and what's maybe a random pick that we haven't seen in a while that they might play. Which I put Danza here for Zep, by the way. He literally played this at Worlds. So you'll just have random stuff here that you're maybe thinking about. And then red text is, I don't give a fuck if they play it. So like if Ven plays Uller, I don't care. I don't think he's an Uller player, you know? Stuff like that. And then we'll go further down, and I'm going to have a ton of notes here, and I'm going to have a ton of color-coded drafts, and I'm just going to go through it over and over and over. So we'll deep dive into something like this a little bit later. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for listening to the rant.